Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, 3.0 is roll call school board members. Everybody's present. So let's move directly into 4.0 communications and reports. We'll start with superintendent's report and 4.1 is the enrollment.
Yeah, we'll start off with enrollment. On a positive note, we did not go down last month, but we did jump by one student. So the K through 12 enrollment increased to 1,817 students. You know, last year at this time, we were at 1,860. So, you know, we're about 43 students fewer than last year at this time. So just kind of calculate that in your head, you know, about $8,000-9,000 per pupil unit. And, you know, that will have an impact on the budget and future staffing. So just wanted you to be aware of that. Hopefully, you know, the enrollment will continue to grow and we'll get back to where we were last year at this time. Any questions regarding enrollment? I know, Mr. Grass, so you guys have been working on kindergarten registration for next year, and that's always one that we want to get a good handle on. And it sounds like numbers are pretty positive and they're making good progress there. So we'll plan on the normal 7 sections of kindergarten and that also that extra pre-K section. But as of right now, the numbers look like that would be pretty, you know, normal compared to past years. So that's all I have. So.
Okay, thank you. Let's go directly into 4.2, which is the finance update. Amanda's here, so the floor is yours.
Awesome. All right, I just have a couple notes for you. So on the start off on that budget to actual information, for the revenue side of things, the only thing I wrote down is our federal revenues are a bit down from where they were in the prior year, and that's just grant related. Last year at this time, our SR2 funds had paid for 2 buses and a lot of computers, whereas this year we've bought 1 bus. So it's just basically timing of what we've coded to the grants. And then on the expenditure side, our I didn't have too many notes here. Our expenditures are up in the general fund over the prior year, as you can see, but the majority of that, actually all of it, is benefits and wages and benefits. So our salaries are up about 7% over the prior year. And then the only other line item that really stuck out was the supplies line item, and that is just coding of last year we had purchased textbooks and some tech devices that are in those lines, and there's been no equivalent purchase this year. And then on the second page of the smaller funds, I didn't have very many notes on there. There's a few things that I'm looking into, but I don't have anything to report on those today. And then our treasurer's report, so the cash balances. So our cash position is down from the prior year by about 903,000, and that is due to our increased expenditures. And then the other note I had on here is that TD Ameritrade account. I just want to let you know that it will close at end of April or beginning of May. The last last item that's tied up in there ends on April, the last day of April. So I believe that'll close early May, and those funds will just move into our checking account. Any questions on any of that?
Questions, board members? So when you talk about increased expenditures
Mhm.
and you talk about, this is from my perspective, talking about wages, et cetera, up 7%.
Mhm.
So where lies the ARPA funds where we've brought on different things that have been supplemented by that federal funding? That's included with that?
So they're 2 separate line items. So your expenditures are all going to be in the salaries and wages and then benefits lines. So all of those extra people are included in there. And then you'll see the offset in the federal line item. So that's $746,000 of revenue. That's where we draw down those extra people in those different funds.
So that difference of, what'd you say, 908,000?
Well, the 900.
That's not the actual number then, or it is?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay,
Maybe I don't get the question.
So you're saying 908,000,
That's our cash decrease position
Okay.
overall as a district.
and you said due to expenditures, but prior to that, you said the majority of our expenditures are
Oh,
salary.
Yes, so
So my question
yeah,
is,
so the
where lies the difference? If we keep adding people and stating, yeah, we have all these funds to keep adding all these people, but now I'm hearing from you that I'm doing my due diligence.
Sure.
We actually just had the discussion there, we do have quite I'm not going to say millions and millions of dollars of ESSER money
Yep.
sitting in the fund, but we do have enough to get through. And right now we've only coded, our mental health professionals and a few other things to that. We do have more personnel that we could code
Okay.
to ESSER. But we're going to we actually just visited about it this afternoon. We're going to sit down Friday and see if there's a way we need to adjust that ESSER budget for this year and next year, because those funds are going to have to be used by September of 2020.
So that's my concern. My concern is that we're, not.
We're going backwards.
Yeah.
Part of it is fewer students, decreasing revenue, also increased expenditures, no doubt about it. We've had increased expenditures and we predicted that because of the staff we brought on. I'll just use like FTEs for licensed staff. We went from probably 135 to close to 150, over time here. And
As long as administration is watching it, because we can't just depend on, federal funds forever.
yep,
So
that's kind of been the message too, is that we
for the
will,
whole board, but that would
Yeah.
be my concern is that.
you will
Whatever
eventually
lasts.
hit the COVID cliff.
Yeah.
That'd be a good way to put it. The dollars are gonna run out. Right now, we're maxing those out. We have some things allocated and budgeted in there for, that would be like physical improvements to a building, et cetera, that we could reallocate for personnel. So,
So we have to use them by the end of calendar year 2024?
no, September
September.
30th, 2020, or September 1. That's right. It's September of 2024.
As long as there's conversations being had and
Oh, yeah.
it's shared with the board, that's
Yeah.
my only concern. So maybe I should have directed the question to Mike first. But
No, that's
Any other
actually,
questions?
we're on the same page.
Okay.
We've talked about that quite often, so.
any other questions, finance report?
Well, along with what you said, so I understand. So once the funds are used, how are we gonna pay the people that we hired with these funds? Do we just say bye? Or how does that work?
There could either be some new revenue sources that come to the district. For example, the mental health support, there is a bill out there that, of course, we don't know there are a lot of unknowns until the legislature adjourns here at the end of May.
Mhm.
And if we were able to, if that comes to fruition, then we would able to use those funds to help offset the costs when the ESSER dollars run out especially for our mental health professionals.
Okay,
So that would be an example.
it's kind of like a fluid plan right now.
Yep, and there are a lot of unknowns. We don't know what's going to happen in St. Paul. There's talk of a lot of new funding. However, there are a lot of new expenditures attached to it. So when they start talking about 5 and 5 on the formula, that's a lot of money. That's historical. However, we're going to need every cent of it. And if enrollment continues to decline or doesn't increase, there will be some tough decisions to be made down the road. That's, we've adjusted the staff accordingly. And we're gonna have to adjust back based on enrollment.
Appreciate it.
And that's why that's why you run with the reserve. It's nice to have about a 20% fund balance because you're able to offset that. But it's really hard to adjust in a school district, especially with staffing. It's easier to add than to take away.
Mhm.
It's a lot more difficult, so.
All right, well, let's just jump right into 4.3 then. So back to superintendent's report. So go ahead, Superintendent Colness.
Yeah, I'll head into my report here. First of all, Greenway recognition. We are going to get this done tonight, right, Mr. Lohr? Our two outstanding AAA winners are scheduled to be here at 6 o'clock, and we'll make sure we recognize them and get a good picture tonight. We've been patient, but they've been very busy. Part of the reason they're AAA winners is because they're very, very busy student athletes, or they participate in all kinds of activities. Legislative updates, they have been on break. There isn't a whole lot new out there. I did send you an email. I think you get that from MSBA already. We have the MREA meeting tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock where we get updates. And then I'm waiting for the MASA updates. And once I get that, I'll make sure I send that out. But there are some bills that could cost school districts a lot of money. And that's something you need to be very aware of. And like I said, there is a lot of unknowns. There are a lot of unknowns right now. So we'll see what happens and I'll do my best to keep you updated. Summer maintenance projects, Ron has been putting that list together. We actually have a facilities committee meeting scheduled for 11 o'clock on Friday in this room here. So Amanda will be there, myself. I think Jill and Chad will be there as well because they have some requests as far as like updating facilities for smaller rooms in their buildings to accommodate some special services for students. And Ron is putting that together to list. They're putting together a list and we've been pretty conservative with that over the years. So we'll we'll see what the requests are. And, our building's been, we've been fortunate to update the roofs and parking lots and all those things the last few years. So we'll go through that, but I know it's a struggle to get the firm prices from in certain areas. So we'll get that information to you. And then once that committee has a chance to review that, they can make a recommendation, to the board as far as moving forward with the projects. The business management services, just a little history. So let's put a sheet there because Amanda, as she's riding off in the sunset eventually here, just with their commitments. We've been very fortunate to have a great working relationship with Brady Martz for many years. Before the business management services position, it was auditing. They audited the district for many, many years. But the last 4 years have been very, very good. And just personnel, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. It's hard to find. Business managers are very, very difficult to find. Okay, I'll just throughout, and you'll see that throughout the state, that there are people advertising for those. And if you have a good one, you want to hang on to that person. Okay. So a couple things, just there's a job description for a full-time director of business services that we put together. It doesn't mean you have to advertise for that. That's an option for you. That would be a full-time person employed by the district. That would be your business manager, basically doing the duties of what Amanda's doing now and a few other things added on. So you can take a look at that. A historical look at, since I've been here, I'll just use that because that's really all I know. So starting in 2016, and you can see where we had business management services, and you'll see SMS is a contracted business management service that works throughout the state of Minnesota. And a guy named Todd Netsky is their president. And he was here, I would say, my first year. He built the budget. He did a few other things, but he was maybe here a half a dozen times a year.
Less than that.
Yeah, so I'll just be, I mean, that was, it's been, I'll keep going here. I won't say anywhere. We also had a full-time district accountant. That was Estelle Knutson. Carla was accounts payable. Julie Norman and Robin Metzger worked payroll and benefits. And I believe at that time, they were all a part of the administrative assistant agreement at that time. In 17-18, Todd was still the business manager, but the plan was to hire a full-time business manager. So Jim Muckenhern was hired. He had been a superintendent up at North Home. So Jim worked that year. Todd was like a consultant and with the plan that their contract was going to be done. Jim decided once we got into the spring, he was offered a business management position at St. Francis, which was close to where his wife was working. So he left the district. Carla was the accounts payable. She replaced basically Estelle there. And Robin did the dual role of payroll and benefits. They became contracted employees instead of under the master agreement of the administrative assistants. The next year, when Jim decided to leave, Aaron Cook had been doing business management services for a couple of districts in the area. And I was familiar with Aaron since I worked with him in Ada. And he joined, he was employed by Todd Netsky, and he was our business manager for that year. Very similar to what Amanda's doing now, 1 to 2 days a week. And then he would do things on the side, but he decided to become a superintendent. So that was done. And Brady Martz came with a proposal. They wanted to get into the business management world, and they put together a proposal for a 3-year contract. And that's what we have been working under for the 3-year contract. We extended it 1 year for this year. So that agreement, Brady Martz is no longer, they've talked to me quite a bit about, they're not able to continue with the contract the way it was. And so a decision is going to have to be made by the board on what the direction, you would like to go as far as business management services go. It's very, very important. You need to have people that know what they're doing, because if there are mistakes made there, it can be costly. And the pool of business managers, and Amanda, you could probably attest to this because you see what's going on in the auditing world. It's not something that you see, there's turnover there. And to learn that position is very difficult. Minnesota School Finance and all of the coding, it's not something you just step into and learn overnight. So nothing is on the board for action or on the agenda tonight for action, but I wanted you to know the history and I wanted you to know some of your options. As far as contracted services go, there aren't that many options. Todd Netsky from SMS did contact me and wondered if we would be interested in working with him again. The hard part, he's based out of Rochester, and unless he has people up here, it's very difficult for him. to staff it. You know, I had one other person talk to me about a contracted service, but they technically don't have any company to offer at this time. But so the information's there for you, the historical part as far as the last 7 years go. Also, you know, I know you are meeting with MSBA tomorrow. You might talk about some potential options there, but you're going to need somebody in that position that's strong. So. Anything to add, Amanda? No, I mean, it's been,
Questions?
it's really been, I mean, it's been, the last 4 years have been really good. I have been very comfortable with the services that we've been provided. You know, when they first brought out the contract, it looks like a big dollar amount, but really you're paying for the service. You're not paying for the hours. They, you know, however they get the job done. Amanda's here 2 days a week, which works out well, but that's not always the case with contract service people.
So I see we have our Greenway of recognition here, but and we're not gonna take any action on this tonight, but I think, I guess I would like to know at what point in time don't we have one?
What's that?
I mean, you say we're not working under contract, so
Yeah, when is it?
when are we done?
June 30th, I believe.
That's when our current.
Yeah.
Started like that early up. Like.
No, we're not doing it early.
No, wait, you know, just so,
How about a
and
later-
so the board's aware too. Amanda and I, the one thing is, there are a couple things that you have to know. So if Brady Martz were to ever audit us again, there would have to be a 1-year separation. Basically, Amanda couldn't work on anything here and then a year from now be our auditor. There has to be a separation if that were to happen. That-
24 year end audit. I've attained all of Brady Martz.
Right. Sure. So the other thing would be too, is I did visit with Amanda and I know I think you talked with Brian as well, that if we needed support, right, in the transition, you know, it could be an hourly rate contract or something like that to make sure we're in good hands through the transition. So, okay. But the 2 days a week option is out. It's off the table, unfortunately. So
But June 30th, I mean.
that's the official end of the contract. Yeah.
Board members, other questions on that? All right, before you jump into the rest of your stuff, looks like we have our two Greenway recognition folks here, so.
Awesome. Awesome. It's great to see you. So we'll have Mr. Lord come on up and make our presentations here. We've been waiting, we've been patient, but all right. No, we're very fortunate to have two outstanding young people who will be graduating this year and heading off to, I don't know if I was better places at Valley City State, but I'm just kidding. Kayla. But you know, the AAA winners, and I talked about this earlier, that's really the best of the best. So when you receive that, you should be very proud of yourselves, and we are very proud of you. So thank you. We'll start off with Bryn Hansen, and I'll let Bryn come on up and shake Mr. Lohr's hand, and we'll take a picture. So give Bryn a big round of applause. And Bryn was our local winner. And we were down in Monoman for the banquet in February. And then our local winner, also subsection winner and section 8 winner, Caleb Zedlick. So give Caleb a big round of applause. And Caleb was fortunate to go down and stand on the target floor, right, target center floor during Class AA championship game and was recognized down there. So give these two a big round of applause, please. And we'll head down there and take a picture with the board. Okay? You gotta get people like Lindsay up front. John's gonna find you somewhere in there now. All right. Probably need like coach. All right, here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Great job. Thank you. Yeah.
Get all registered for Valley.
I did. I was there today. Athletes are great camps and all. So. All right. And I believe Caleb's going into math education, right, Mr. Lord? Yeah, so, Right.
Someday he wants to take my spot.
well, we can work on it. All right.
Just
Uh,
keep plugging away, Superintendent Colas.
All right, I'll keep going here. So that's it with the business management services position unless you have questions. Next thing would be the State of the City address. There's a luncheon on April 20th at 11:30. We do have a table reserved if anybody would like to attend. I know Amanda has, so we'll make sure we have you listed, but let me know if you're interested in attending. I think it's pot roast for lunch, so. And Mayor Gander will be speaking. And then tomorrow afternoon at 3:45, Carla and Nancy and myself and a few others will be meeting with any paraprofessional. We invited the whole group to come to the PAC, basically to review the updated master agreement, talk about their current wage, their new wage, back pay procedures, highly qualified, all the things, all the details of the contract, and try to get all of those details worked out, answer any questions, make any corrections before back pay takes place. And also their new rates. So, it'd be a chance to clarify anything if they have questions, and hopefully it's well attended. So. And that is all I have unless you have questions. Now,
Maybe Superintendent Colas, you can maybe explain why you and the staff are doing that tomorrow for all the paras.
Well, we have about 90 paras and there's turnover there, right? So there was, there have been many changes to that agreement. For one, we've added a salary schedule that has steps and all those kind of things. We also have highly qualified versus non-highly qualified. We want to explain how they can qualify for that $2 an hour increase, basically. Talk about the back pay because we're so late into the school year. Here's what your current rate is. Here's what your new rate's going to be. Here's how many hours we projected that you worked this year. Here's what your projected back pay is going to be. Here's where you're going to be placed on the salary schedule because we haven't ever had steps before. So all of that information will be shared, and we just really want to make sure they get a chance to ask questions in case they have some. And I'm sure there'll be questions for the rest of the year. Also, there'll be a new process in place for them to get their 40 hours of district approved professional development. That's one way to qualify for the highly qualified status. And Nancy will be a big part of that as well, keeping track of those records. Yeah, looking forward to the meeting.
All right, let's move on. 4.3.2. Looks like we got something from Soraya. A report for him, yeah, or a proposal? Proposal. All right, come on up.
Saray and Chad will both come on up.
Well, we're excited to be talking about this tonight. This has been 4 years in the making to get to this point, to talk to you about what we could possibly do to get things improved in reading. And I have to tell you, from a personal perspective, this is really passionate for me. I am dyslexic myself and did not have direct instruction in phonics and really didn't learn how to read till I went to college. I'm going to be very honest with you. When I had to spend an immense amount of time immersed in literacy is when I really learned, to be honest. So I want to walk through the process a little bit of what we've done. We've done a lot of work behind the scenes. Chad's been an amazing partner, so I'm just going to let him walk through first some of the steps we took, and then we'll answer any questions, and we want to walk through the proposal with you as well. So go ahead, Chad.
So for those of you that were at the meeting before, was it September, October, kind of the same kind of plan that we talked about is, we met as a district-wide literacy group, looked at our current HMH reading program. With that, we decided to go about placing our standards, aligning our standards to the HMH. So we'll have that all mapped out at the end of the year. But as we started working that, especially with our K2 curriculum, our K2 staff found some holes, right? The scope and sequence with that phonics in that program is a little bit, how do you want to say, it's quirky. right? There's lots of information there that if three of us were teaching first grade together, I could pick like, okay, this is what I could do, this is what I could do, this is what I'm gonna do, and it could be different. And it's all coming out of the same thing, and we're all doing the right thing because it's coming out of the book. But each kid isn't getting the same process. So as we started looking at different things, we came, Orton Gillingham's been out there for a long time. And Orton Gillingham has a very tight scope and sequence with the phonics-based program and orthographic. I got it right. I've been struggling to say that word because I want to say a different word, but orthographic. Now, what is phonics? Is phonics for our little kids is picking out letters, like being able to look at a letter and say, that's an A. What does the sound? Writing it, that moves into the orthographic piece, and having our kids do that and being able to make those connections to words is a huge piece. And Kaylin can talk about it. Her and Pam have worked with it, and our Title I gals have worked with it. We have some great data that Soraya is going to share with you later. It's very easy to get data out of that program so that we're able to show you that where our kids are moving and how fast they're moving and what they're picking up. So what we strongly feel about this program is it's going to close that gap that we're seeing that hasn't been closed for a long time, like years. So if we have those kids building those strong pathways in our K2 program, what's going to help us with our Read Well by third grade plan. So we've rewritten our Read Well by third grade plan to help get to this point as well. So with all of these changes, you know, we feel that if we moving forward, we will have the ability to close that gap that we have right now. And it's not saying that our teachers are doing a bad job. They are doing what they've been trained to do. This is just a different process. And it can be used at every level. So we can use it in the classroom wide. We can use it at our tier 2 intervention in title. We can use it as a tier 3 intervention in our special ed programs. They're going to hear all the same things. They're going to get all the same materials. They'll do all of it and it'll be the same. It's not going to be, well, Mr. Grassel taught me phonics, but he did it this way. Mrs. Driscoll did it this way. Mrs. Bakke did it this way. Will we still use our HMH program? We're not throwing it out. It's got awesome literature. It has awesome different other parts of that program that we can use that it can enhance the building of our kids' ability to read. Will it help Brian's students at the high school and Jill's students at the middle school? Absolutely. We won't be having those issues of what's happening at New Heights, at South Point. Why aren't South Point teachers doing this? Why aren't our middle school teachers doing this? Kind of things that we've been hearing for a long time. And we feel strongly enough about this program that we feel that we will be able to come to you to close that gap. The other piece about this in Orton Gillingham is the ability to, so you say, how is that going to work? I'm sure somebody in here is like, how is this really going to work? So it eliminates, doesn't eliminate, but we can use it for spelling. We can use it for handwriting, and we can use it for the phonics piece. So that's 3 pieces in a day that is direct instruction that they're going to have the same all of the time. So when those kids leave here, when they leave the 2nd grade, they should have a strong background in reading. So I'm not going to talk about what that program looks like and all that, but I'll let Kaylin and Soraya talk about that.
Yep.
So this is just for like K2? Okay, so is this, would this be something that if the student wants to move on to like South Point in 3rd grade and they're in title or they're in special needs, is it gonna be the same program there for them? Cause they're gonna be able to go to South Point.
Right. So part of the number that we have is that every Our title teachers will all be trained and our special ed teachers will all be trained.
So what do you mean by all? What, like what grades?
K-5.
K-5, okay.
Yep,
So with the-
K-5 elementary, special ed and title.
Okay.
So with the-
K-2 teachers.
Yeah, got it. So all teachers at New Heights,
Yes.
and then all of your specialized
Yes,
at some point.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
And some have had training already.
Yep.
Yes, so
Yeah.
for example, the Title I teachers and the EL teachers in both buildings, South Point and New Heights have already been trained. But this training, we will do all special ed teachers and all K2 teachers between, South Point and. well. So we just don't want to leave anything up to chance here because the teachers want to know exactly what they need to teach. And what Orton Gillingham does is it gives us a really tight scope and sequence, which is what they're looking for. So for example, in kindergarten, there's 32 lessons. We have 36 weeks of school. They pace that out for the whole year and they go through those lessons. Every week they assess exactly what's happening in the classroom. And if somebody's getting behind, then we get the intervention in place immediately. So it's not this waiting around game that we've had. So that's a huge shift for us. Because currently we're just pulling data. And let me tell you, we're not hitting all the kids. We're not, we can't possibly because we only have 2 interventionists really working at New Heights. So when you have 75% of kids needing intervention in a grade level, and you've got 2 people who can basically maximize about 30 kids a day, we're not getting everybody we need to hit.
You don't, sorry, you don't see it as a detriment because it's so rigid?
I don't.
Okay.
I think if we keep, and this is why, it's one part of literacy. It's a missing piece for us, K2. It just is foundational piece missing. And that's why 30 minutes of this in the classroom a day is gonna be a nice immersion piece for us, because we'll know exactly. Some schools, Deer River, I believe, is it Deer River? No, Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids, they're doing 90 minutes. Now, they've worked up to, they're doing 90 minutes of this in their K2 system. And they're having really good results. And I love their saying, they're not just doing this for the test, they're building readers. And that's how we have to look at this. We're really building strong foundational readers. So that's the key piece.
So what would stop us from?
I think we want to start with the 30 minutes, Josh, to be honest, because there's lots of good work around the 30 minutes. I'm gonna let Kaylin talk to what 30 minutes does.
Well, The 30-minute, we're talking about the phonics piece, the phonics program. And so the 30 minutes would be where they practice their sounds and their words and write those words down. There's a bunch of different multisensory approaches that they do with it. It reviews each week. There's a visual approach, there's a sensory approach. But the 30 minutes just covers the phonics piece. And I think the 90 minutes would build into more of the reading piece. We're gonna use our HMH for the rest of our literacy block.
Because we really do want them to have that rich literacy experience as well with text. They need some decodable text around the phonics piece, which is included in this, which can be part of that 30-minute time frame as well. But they also do need that rich, those
Yeah.
rich, good stories to get them.
There's lots of
engaged.
strands to the reading
Yeah.
world now.
This
and
is just one
of 'em.
piece.
But this is the important
Important
piece,
piece.
especially at our level, like the K2.
So if you go behind those 2 documents, I want to show off what these ladies have been doing. There's a graph that looks like this. And this is first grade data, and this is just one area that we've assessed. We roughly have 35 students we're working with. They didn't get 3 students progress monitored. They were gone when they did their last progress monitoring. So that's why you see 32 students here, the data. So when we initially started, we had 23 students. The first column there represents students that were where they were performing when they did the progress monitoring piece. Their first baseline assessment in using words was the first one they did. So we had 23 of those 32 students. That's where they were performing below the 59th percentile. And then if you go to the orange where the 8 is, then we had 8 students of those 32 performing below the 79th, between the 79th and the 60th percentile. And then we had one student who was performing above at that 80%. And what you can see now, if you go to the, back to the front again, the red, we have 8 there, but of those 8, every one of those kids has grown. So some went from a 0 to a 45%. Some we had at 0 that jumped over to the orange at a 79%. So the growth we are seeing, we haven't seen growth like this when I was putting this together. I was so excited because it's really fun to see how we are closing the gap just with these few students that we're working with. To the point now, if you look at the green, we have 21 kids in that 80th percentile. And the teachers are coming in and asking Kaylin and asking Pam, what are you guys doing in here? 'Cause they see it in the classroom as well, the effect, and they're excited. So I'm gonna let Chad talk to what he did to find out who's interested, who really wants to get this training, because we did a little background there too.
Right. So as you know, we brought Carrie Yates in, who is the author of the 6 shifts in reading, of the science of reading. So our last full curriculum day, we talked to teachers, I talked to all of our K-5 teachers and asked them who would be interested. We put a survey together, and I think the first time in a long time, we've got buy-in from a lot of teachers. And when I mean a lot, everybody at New Heights said they want to be trained. Every special ed person wanted to be trained, and I actually have a few 3-5 teachers who would like to be trained as well. So, we have a lot of buy-in. They see the importance of this, of building that pathway of this, they're learning the sound, writing the sound, putting it together with words.
And using a multi-sensory approach is the other piece that's missing in our curriculum. And what we mean by multi-sensory is they make the letters in the sand or on sandpaper or with an overlay where they're having to write with that overlay so they can feel the letter and they can feel the sound. That multi-sensory is what helps the brain develop the pathway. So it's huge. It's been a huge deal.
And then they get to, after we practiced all of those skills individually, then we turn those skills and practice them in a decodable book, which is fantastic. I mean, I've never taught reading for a long time and I've never been able to sit back. And I have a different population this year and just watch kids read. It's just incredible where they're not needing the prompting from me. And it's really cool.
You talk about, that was gonna be my first question, is what's the buy-in? Last thing we want is to hear after we walk out of here, or once this is implemented, no, there's another thing that's getting shoved down our throats. So it's good to hear that. Number 2, you look at this, it's talk about evidence-based. So this is the cat's meow, this is the top of the line, or what else?
Okay.
What else did we look at?
Okay, great question. So we had 2 of our teachers go, well, and actually Mr. DeWitt also has gone through letters training. That's a 2-year process of training that they've been through. Rhonda and Pam are still not finished with
Just
that
about.
training. It's very in-depth. It's very heavy. I'm going to say the content's very heavy. And what they've seen even going through that process is how many people have fallen off the bandwagon of this training. And it's been interesting because MDE, of course, was pushing the letters at first saying, well, we're going to put, all this money is coming behind letters training. Well, that's when we jumped on. We're like, we got to get some people trained. At least we got to get our title people trained. And Rhonda and Pam also went through this training of 30 hours. And they said, oh my God, this just makes so much more sense. This is exactly what we're looking for, to the point that people were saying during the training, and I can say it because I said it too, I want my grandchildren to experience this, because this is what was missing for me as a youngster. I can tell you right now, was my foundation that was missing. So, and we were all saying the same thing. So the letters training is great. It's super in-depth about how the brain process and all that good information. You also get that in the OG training, just a little lighter version of that. So they get more into the how to do it and the what to do, which is what teachers are really interested in, to be honest.
Board members, questions? I mean, there's no action we're taking tonight.
Is this also used in Super K? Or the,
It's not.
no?
It's a K.
Okay.
Starts in K.
And what we really visited with pre-K about is making sure that phonemic awareness, which is the sounds, the letters the sounds make, the nursery rhymes, it's more the listening part of reading. If we can really get that down solid pre-K, we're gonna be in really good shape.
Well, Superintendent Coleman, is there action we want to take?
Well, just a couple of things too. Saray and Chad brought this to the staff development
Oh,
committee
yeah.
last week, and because it's a big budget request. But everybody on that committee supported, it's roughly between $80,000 and $85,000.
Yep.
So that will cost, I think that would include 30 hours of curriculum, time in the summer, the training cost, the materials, everything that goes with it. And that would eat up a good portion of our staff development funds, but we have reserved funds for that. And that's the purpose. And I think that everybody was on board. They feel that if we can build that foundation in K2, that it's just going to pay big dividends in the end for our kids and our staff.
Right.
So,
And another portion to that is there is a READ Act bill out there that supports this type of training. Where that's gonna end up again is an unknown,
Yeah.
but there is possibility for some reimbursement, maybe, that could come legislatively as well.
So is anybody doing this around us?
Grand Rapids.
So they're the closest. I guess my biggest concern, it all looks fine and dandy, but I also see a lady's name on here with the proposal, so it's no different than selling a new car. So
Yeah.
coming to you and
Yeah.
saying, hey, this is the cat's meow, here's what we can do,
Yeah.
but I don't see.
Yeah. Yeah, we have kids that are, there are private tutors right now. Yeah,
Okay, so this is the one. That was
This
what
is
I'm
the
trying to
one.
get to.
Yeah.
And I know it's kind of the cat's meow, but I want to just make sure that we're going through, we're doing our due diligence,
Mhm.
all the groups, and I think everybody's catching on. Mike's staff has grabbed on,
Yeah.
Mrs. Baki, hey, we've gone through this, we've gone through
One of
this.
the comments made of the parent engagement night that we had here, there were 2 or 3 parents that specifically stated, I wish my other children would get the Orton Gillian training. Because I'm paying for that to happen.
Well, you're answering
They're gonna
exactly
pay
what I'm
for it
looking
anyways.
for. Then go
But
ahead.
is that how you found out about it?
No.
Is by, okay, so how was that?
Well, okay. Well, I'm not gonna say that's not true. We did find out about it that way. Actually, I had a nice visit with one of the people who was doing that tutoring in the area back before when we were trying to get this going. And we visited about what is the methodology? And the multisensory piece, we did have 2 people trained prior and it was back 2019, I believe it was. We had 2 people in the district trained and it just never got a chance to take off because of, we just weren't ready at that point. But we do have 2 additional people also trained besides the people we've recently trained as well.
yeah. And the staff development committee supported this, and I support it too. I think it would be a wise use of those dollars. They are dedicated funds that we need to use for staff development. So there may have to be some areas that we cut back in when it comes to staff development in order to accommodate, but we do have funds in that account.
Other questions, Amanda?
Yeah, is the Institute for Multisensory Education the only place that you can get the Orton Gillingham training, or is there other places that offer it?
There are others. There is the OG themselves, the Orton Gillingham group that offers it. What I feel is missing in that one is the multisensory piece, which is what we really do need, which meets the letter of the law for dyslexia. They're training. Yeah, it's not just the training we're getting all the materials too.
So like I.
Forever?
There are
As
like,
long as we pay, right? Or it's,
we pay the $1,275 per person trained. We get the scope and sequence for kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade. Everybody gets.
Just
those.
for that year, because
No,
No,
forever.
Okay.
They're ours.
There'll be some consumable things like paper, but.
yeah,
Paper, we might need additional cards down the, there may be some replaceable things, but
Really minor. I
it's
mean,
minor things.
You can literally take off.
yeah.
And the training's a big piece. That'll be with those staff members forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Training's
And that's
huge.
kind of why we're on what it is right now, is we're trying to get ourselves aligned so that we can get in early, get the training, so that our staff knows when it's coming, so we don't
Okay, that kind of follows up to my next question, like, how long is the training gonna take to get 30 hours? So
30
30
hours.
hours, so, and then everyone would get, and it would get implemented starting right away
Next
next year?
fall.
Next fall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, and so I'm guessing there's probably limited space for training.
So we can, the
Or
sooner
can
we,
Can we get someone to come here? And
that's what
do
we're
our
trying to
whole
do,
business?
Josh.
Do our whole.
Do the
Yeah.
whole 30
yeah,
hours.
Do everyone here.
Yep,
at
so it
our-
would be 1 week, trainer comes in, we do the training, and then,
So we wouldn't have to send anyone, it's just they're
Nope,
coming in, they're
they're
getting us
coming in.
all the
Yeah.
materials.
And when we got trained this fall,
We did
through
it
Zoom,
online.
And it was awesome online too. It really was.
so for example, Grand Rapids, there was several, in Grand Rapids, there was about 4 or 5 teachers that were in our training, that had missed their big training that they did, in the districts. They had to catch on virtually, and they just had to do that. But, you know, the problem is this substitute teacher issue. I mean, trying to find subs to replace is difficult, so we would really like to.
You'd
get
have
them
to do this
summer.
training in the summertime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the plan for, like retention of the program? Do we have?
Yep.
You get trained and then do we have a train the trainer? So I'm coming on as a teacher 2 years from now. Well, I don't know anything, so how am I gonna learn?
So there's a couple routes we can do. They always offer the virtual training that we could offer the new staff, or we could also get somebody certified as well, Brandon.
So what, do we need any action tonight?
Well, I think, you know, it's a pretty big request, over $80,000. I would like to have the board approve that. You know, but we need to move forward with the planning. If you wanted to put on here that to approve, training, Orton Gillham training for, I believe it's 40 staff members.
40 staff members.
I mean, you could add that to the agenda tonight if you wanted to. But, if you want to think about it and, act on it in 2 weeks, you know,
Well, I
we're
think
gonna,
we need to put it together. This is just from my seat. Board members feel free to speak, but it's not only this package, but we have 40 staff members now that we're gonna add 30 hours, and there's contracts and things out there that I'm not saying we don't want this, but we gotta take a step back and think about what to do on that end and how we're gonna do it. So I think, you know, we're gonna have a lot of meetings coming up, lots of meetings. There'll be special meetings every week. So I guess unless board members, unless you feel otherwise, I
I
mean,
think we need more time to look at everything. And I was gonna ask, I always hear like the data. Where can I find the data from the Institute of Multisensory Education to support the claims?
The research you mean behind it?
Yeah, or the evidence. It's, you know, like, cause it says the data, the evidence, it's evidence-based. Like.
It's
how-
evidence-based because it was a part of a meta-analysis, and so it's been proven that this works. The research, I can send you as much research as you want. I can
Yeah,
send that
just,
to you, Amanda.
schools that have used it, what their changes have been, real life action, not just necessarily meta-analysis would be, I think, good to make a financial decision like that.
Well,
I-
yep,
we're
I
feeling
think
that
this
it's great.
data shows us what this group's doing. I can send you what Grand Rapids has a great article out there about what they're seeing. Yeah, not a problem.
I guess I disagree. You have the superintendent who's all in, you have all the staff that's all in. You have administration, you have teachers that are here. They're standing in front of us saying, hey, this is what our kids need. Why are we tabling something for 2 more weeks when this summer is short already? And for training, to get our training, why not get ahead of it? If we're gonna table it for 2 weeks and say, okay, yep, that's good, let's do it now. Why are we waiting? I guess that's the issue I have.
no, and that's the conversation that I want to have. I mean,
Like, if we wait 2 weeks, now all of a sudden, do we push that trainer back and it's harder for our staff to get trained? Like, if this is something that they're here, superintendent's buying in, all the staff's buying in, why? Can't us 6 figure it out? Say, hey, this is important. This is really important for our kids.
so from my perspective, I'm okay with that as long as the budget's there. The last thing I want to do is approve something and then I get a phone call because we're trying to figure out how to pay our teachers the 40 hours. So that's my biggest thing. I'm all for approving this tonight, but if Mike's gonna.
That's in there already.
It's there.
That
Well, then-
83,000,
then we're good.
that's in there. The only thing, Brandon, the only thing that wouldn't be in there, Brandon, is if when the contract gets amended, if we increase that amount of.
Oh,
curriculum
absolutely.
pay,
No, certainly understand that.
That's
So
the
if
only-
that, I mean, by answering that question, then Josh, I'm on board with you. Then if that's covered, in what you guys are talking about, by all means, then I'm fully support. Brian, you got something back there?
No, I was just gonna say, yeah.
Okay.
When we talk about staff, I don't know why Mike said, you know, Bill and I, we know the benefits gonna come to us. So we're 100%. I was part of that staffing on the committee and I said, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
If they say it works and they're showing growth from 5% to 80% or whatever that number is.
Yeah.
Gator's a great example to share with, so, you know.
And the other portion of that is, this is only 3.5 months of data.
Yeah.
This isn't a whole year's worth of data.
That's one thing increase.
It's only gonna get better.
Sure. Lindsay, you got something?
Yeah, I
from your
was just gonna
perspective?
say I'm all in as well. I've been paying for my daughter to get Orton Gillingham tutoring for 4 years, so
Okay.
I understand the program. I see the results in her, and I'm all in as well. I think it's gonna be wonderful. I wish that it would have been about 5 years ago, but you know, that's all
So-
right. Well,
Eric, Lynn,
I
I'd say put it
I
on
agree
tonight.
with you guys. I'm all in as well. I can't imagine any piece of information that would change my mind. So
okay, so we're gonna get to, not on the agenda, we'll get to the agenda. You're gonna have to work with me on how we're gonna add it to the agenda. Someone's gonna have to make a motion to get on the agenda, and no, I appreciate you sharing that. That's already in the, but that was my biggest
Yep.
concern was not the actual program itself, but
Yeah.
how are we gonna get all the other stuff done?
Yeah.
So as long as you guys are thinking about that,
It's an additional $4,000 to bring a trainer on site. And then it's the 1,275 per teacher. And then we included in the budget the
Yeah.
pay for the teachers too.
Yeah, and the budget they shared with me was roughly 83,000.
Yep,
I would
it's
probably
roughly
I'd probably add 85,000 on there for this training, right? Just in case there are some, you know, things as far as contractually with the hourly rate for summer school. But 40 staff members that, you know, yeah, they went through, they did a great job at the committee meeting too. And I think that everybody that was there, which came from all the different buildings, they were on board.
well, we'll wait till, we gotta add it to the agenda.
Thank you
but
so much.
Certainly
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
Thank you.
All right, with that being said, let's see, department heads, do we have any? Superintendent Coolness?
Nope, there are no department heads.
You had nothing?
Tonight, no other principals. As far as committee meetings go, negotiations, the administrative assistant master agreement, that has been put into board book for you to hopefully approve tonight. Roughly, they chose the group to, put basically all the funds into salary. You know, the benefit side, the health insurance contribution did not go up, and it's just roughly over 4% each year. It's a smaller group, less than 10 people. The LTFM committee, I already talked about that, is scheduled to meet on Friday. And the policy review committee, I know we did have some discussions about a meeting, but we had conflict or weather. I can't remember what it was, but we weren't able, we didn't get a firm date in there. So I just wanted, those are the committee meetings that I'm aware of.
With that being said, let's move right into 5.0, the consent agenda. Anybody want anything pulled from the consent?
no.
Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
so move.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion on the agenda? On the consent agenda, I'm sorry. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, as uploaded into board books, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 6.0 is opportunities for citizens to speak on items not on the agenda. I have none. Superintendent Coolness.
There were no requests.
All right. Moving to 7.0 is to approve the agenda. So here's where someone's gonna make a motion to add, this Gillian, or however you pronounce it.
Orton Gillingham.
Yeah. The OG training.
Make a motion to add it to the agenda.
Okay, so Josh is making a motion.
I'll second.
And then, so that'll be added on as 8.4. And it was seconded by Brat. Okay. Any questions or discussions on the agenda? All right, all those in favor of approving the agenda as uploaded into board book with the addition of 8.4, the OG program, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so let's go into 8.1. 8.1 is to adopt the education of the homeless student policy and dispute resolution procedure. So that came forward to us last board meeting. We chose to table that, gather some more information. Soraya stepping up to the pulpit to speak if there are any questions, but I'm gonna move to adopt it.
I'll second.
Okay, questions or discussions on it?
I had a few questions.
Sure.
So I was reading, so each district gets X amount of money per the act, right? If I read it correctly or no?
So in our title money, we set aside roughly how much money the district feels we need. At this point, out of Title I dollars, we are setting aside roughly $2,500 because most of our title dollars we use for staffing.
Mhm.
So we have had a very small pot of money to deal from there. We also have set aside $2,500 to ensure that our homeless liaison can attend the professional development she needs as well, to make sure she stays up on statute.
Mhm.
These areas of compliance and these areas are a big deal, you guys. In title, I have been dealing with this Title III audit all year long. And they are cracking down on us. So it's really important that anybody who is working in these programs get the professional development they need as well. So roughly, we have about $5,000 we set aside.
Okay, so one of the big things that I was thinking about when I was reading it was transportation. So, like, what happens when the buses don't run? Do we go pick up the students for school? Cause good faith, like, I was just the way that it was, I read it, made me think that we would go pick up each student and bring them. I was just wondering.
Well,
on how that works.
they do have the right to transportation.
Yeah,
So for example, there's two policies we currently already have, one about enrollment and one about transportation. So because the unique thing about the homeless criteria is they can live in North Dakota, but if they were residents here first,
Mhm.
they can still attend school here. So then we have to provide transportation.
Okay.
For example, we've had to taxi kids over to attend school. So if we weren't running buses, like, give me an example, what you're thinking, Amanda.
We don't always run buses anyways, cause we don't have the bus drivers, so.
Yeah,
that's
we would
the
make
big
sure that kiddo was transported somehow.
We'd have to be creative.
Yeah, we'd
Okay.
get creative. We'd make it work.
And then, one thing with part of it, how long do people have to turn in the necessary documents for enrollment? So like, I know when I enroll my kids, I have to have it in right away. How long do we give homeless persons to turn in their documents? Do they have a timeline? Because there is no timeline in the policy.
So there's no timeline in the federal law as well. They basically give us some leeway to try and get that done as quickly as possible. I do know that when Jennifer is working with a family, she really works on that to make sure we try to get all those things in a timely manner completed. So we aren't waiting like 6 weeks or anything by any means like
So you
that. Just
generally
trying to
have
do
it
that
within
within
a
a week or
week.
so for
Okay.
sure. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we're very fortunate to have somebody, a lead person with the district that handles this,
Oh,
which
we are
we didn't
so
always have
fortunate.
in the past. So that's made a big difference.
I guess the only thing that I really have to add to this part is if, and I know it's difficult for people in this situation, but if there's any way that you can get those kids into some sort of extracurricular activity,
100%,
that would
Josh.
be, I think would just bode well for them going forward. It doesn't matter what it is, music, choir, sports, anything. If there's any way that we can push those kids there, because then they're still here and it's a safe environment rather than possibly going home where it's not.
Right. And part of those funds that we do use to remove barriers is like if they need shoes for basketball, if they needed, that's what we try and use those funds for. And we are so fortunate to have so many community partners. We have United Way who helps us with some of those things as well. Tri-Valley also is helping us with some of the housing barriers that there might be. So, I mean, I think we're pretty fortunate. We have some people really wrapping themselves around this whole concept of homelessness. So. Yep, great point.
Any more discussion? There's a motion by myself, second by Broad to adopt the education of homeless student policy and dispute resolution procedure. So all those in favor signify by stating aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 8.2 is to approve the 2022 through 24 administrative assistant contract. I'll make a motion. One of my other committee members.
I'll second.
Thank.
Sorry.
All right. So with that being said, up for discussion. So Superintendent Colonus, you want to fill in the board?
Just a highlight would be, a majority of the funds, of the increase went to salary, hourly rate. You can see that in there. They have a 8-step scale, basically, the base salary plus 7 steps. That's where they asked for the funds to go. When I met with the group, I gave them a percentage to work with and say, try to be creative here. If you're gonna put money into health insurance, it's gonna take away from salary. And when they came with their proposal, that's where majority of the funds were. So there weren't a lot of changes. Really, it basically went on salary.
So for the rest of the board, those that aren't on the negotiation committee, what the negotiation committee in this aspect is, we delegated this to Superintendent Colness. Gave him some bounds and then he just kind of bounced off us. So this is well within the realms of what we would have done if the negotiation committee would have sat through and did the negotiating. So any other questions, comments, discussion? All those in favor of approving 22-24 or use, you want to say something first?
I will abstain from this vote.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the 22-24 administrative assistant contract signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 8.3 is to accept donations to the school district.
Just give me a second. Okay, so I move to accept donations from the following. Reading for Education, a donation to New Heights for PBIS in the amount of $1,997.58. A donation from the Minnesota Ag in the Classroom to Senior High for farm camp transportation for $1,000. A donation from Opticare to New Heights for field trip transportation in the amount of $700. A donation from Ellen Honig to CMS for Outsiders Day for $100. From Palmasino Financial to CMS for Outsiders Day in the amount of $50. CNH Insurance to CMS for Outsiders Day in the amount of $200. Scott and Nancy
Smaka.
Kazmaka, okay, perfect. I wasn't want to mess that up. To CMS for Outsiders Day in the amount of $50. Acme Electric to CMS for Outsider Day in the amount of $300 for a total of $4,397.58.
Is that a motion? Sorry.
That was a
yeah.
motion.
I'll
Just
second.
need a second.
All right, questions or
A
discussion?
long one.
Certainly, thank you to all these individuals and Mrs. Walter is back there as well. So I'd encourage everybody on the board, if you haven't been to the Outsider Day or want to know what the date is, stop. Get involved. It's a good time. She might even let you dress up. There's a couple staff members that dress up. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but the kids enjoy it when they have adults there and there's quite a few our clubs are involved and it's pretty fun thing. So certainly, thank you to all those individuals. So all those in favor of approving the donations to the school district signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. All right, 8.4. How are we gonna word this?
I would motion, I'm not making the motion. I would recommend that to allocate up to $85,000 for Orton Gillingham training for 40 staff members.
So,
Can I just say so moved on that?
yeah, absolutely, yeah. So King's gonna make a motion per Superintendent Bonus's recommendation. Got that, Nancy? All right.
And we want to be clear to its staff development funds.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
So we just need
I'll second.
Questions or discussion?
I have one question. How much do we have set aside for staff development funds right now?
We have to, by law, put 2% of our expenditures from the year into our staff development fund. So I would say roughly, Amanda, it's over $200,000 a year. Yeah.
And we haven't used it all up this year or anything like that?
Not as of right now. I think we had a balance of about 68,000. Yeah. And then, of course, we'll start the new fiscal year in July 1.
Mm-hmm,
So,
okay.
good question.
Nancy, you want to repeat it or is the board comfortable with the motion? All right.
Yeah.
All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Good job, ladies. Chad. 9.0 is payment of claims and accounts. We got to pay the bills.
I will move to approve checks 124607 through 124648. Second, my computer froze up on me. An amount of $238,170.92, along with EFTs in the amount of $649,598.66 for a total of $887,769.58.
I'll second.
All right, questions or discussions on the bills uploaded into board book? All right, all those in favor of approving the bills as presented signify by stating aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion carries. 10.0 is board member comments. So start with Eric. We'll start on your end.
I don't have any comments tonight. Good discussion on the new reading program. I think exciting and good for our kids and our staff.
Josh,
No, I'm good.
Lindsay,
I would agree with Eric. I'm excited about the Orton Gillingham program. I talked to Sarah about it last week a little bit and something we've talked about a few times in the past, actually. So I'm excited for the program and to see the changes and the results in the kiddos and the 100% buy-in in the staff is awesome. So it's exciting.
Amanda,
Orton and Gillingham has helped my sister's kids tremendously, so I'm excited for it to help my children as well and the rest of the students in the district. Congratulations to the Green Wave recognition to tonight, and also I am super excited for tomorrow night.
Glenn, you got anything?
No, not that hasn't been said.
Yeah, thank you for, I mean, all the hard work that staff has put in. I mean, it's more, you know, I said administrators, but it's certainly the questions that you were able to answer. Probably that staff has been involved too. So I think it's something quite a few people have been waiting for. We've heard it substantially and several times at the board level. Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? We're paying for this. We're paying for this. Why aren't we doing it at our own school? So congrats, job well done. So that being said, 11.0 is next Board of Education meeting. So the next board meeting is actually scheduled for April 24th at 5:30. I want to also note that there's a special meeting scheduled for April 11th tomorrow at 5 o'clock. That agenda item is merely discussion with MSBA on the superintendent search. So that being said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
I'll move.
Okay, Brad's gonna move.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Amanda's gonna second.
Oh, there we go.
All right. Anybody want to talk about it? All those in favor of adjourning the meeting signify by stating aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.